Good morning, YouTube. Welcome back to Sweet King's Garden. This is Lydia. It's definitely been a while. It's been about 2 weeks since my last video. We've had slow but really big changes here on the garden, so let's take a look. So a lot of what I've been up to lately has been weeding my existing garden beds. So I finally finished all of that. And of course, we've had the mulch laid down for quite some time now. But I am going to plant some spring crops in this garden closest to our house. I plan on planting carrots and radishes, maybe some kale. I have to check to make sure if it's early enough for me to do that yet. But this is my butterfly garden all cleaned up, and it is looking so nice. I have some black mulch in there now, and of course I have my herbs. This is catnip and this is the oregano. So in my last video I was all kinds of confused because I had so many weeds in this garden, and I knew there was catnip and oregano hidden somewhere, and I couldn't remember where. But I have catnip, oregano, my rosemary that came back, chives. Last year I had basil here, so I'm going to plant some more. I actually just got seeds for that. Then I have my thyme and then more catnip. And I plan on popping sage in here. So really, just as I walk around the stepping stones of this garden, my plan is just to have a bunch of herbs that I can just kind of pick as I need them. And then of course my butterfly bush is all trimmed up. It gets really large every year, but it's starting to get some leaves on it. This will be absolutely gorgeous. It gets deep purple leaves. And then I have some ground cover and some clematis that my mom gave me from her plant years ago. And then lamb's ear. I can remember in elementary school we used to have these plant fairs where you bring money in and then you can buy like different flowers and things. But I can remember as a kid getting my mom lamb's ears. So when I was an adult and planting my garden for the very first time, I of course had to get lamb's ears. And you can't just walk by without touching it. So, and I know whenever my mom visits, she can't help herself. She always touches the lamb's ears too. So I love you, Mom. But let me show you the garden extension, because this is crazy how much we've gotten done. We are starting to work on the fence around the perimeter, and my husband and brother-in-law and I this past weekend worked on building the vertical trellises, building up the fence, and my husband installed this lovely door for us. So welcome to Sweet King's Garden. So of course, as we walk through here, we have my beautiful arch trellises that are now up, and of course we have the pathways off to the left. Over the weekend, my brother-in-law and I installed these vertical trellises, and these are cattle panels. So the same exact cattle panels that we used for the arch trellises, we ended up cutting these down into 11 feet long, and then of course put additional TPosts in the gardens, and then brought this up about 1.5 feet or so. And this will be what our tomatoes and peppers grow along. And of course we have the T-clips that came with the trellises, and then that T-clip tool that's just amazing. That helped a lot. I brought another of my green stalks out here. I have a third that's the dark green that will go in between. I have strawberries in the first one, nothing planted in the second one yet, and I'll just slowly start adding things. But yeah, this is completely transforming, and I told my husband this is my she shed. If only my Wi-Fi worked out here, then I can just like work in my garden all day long. But when my husband gets off of work today, we are going to finish the rest of the fencing. So we have all of the posts in, and we have the animal netting up, and then we just need to take the planks of wood and fasten them to the top and bottom, and then I'll go behind and staple the netting to the pieces of wood. And of course, this isn't just for aesthetic. The primary purpose of us putting a fence is because we have deer and groundhogs and rabbits. So anything that can potentially sabotage our quest to have a lot of good food in the garden, we want to try and keep those animals out as much as possible. But it does make it look quite impressive. And I've said this before, this garden extension project, I kind of took this on as if it was only going to be me working on it. But my husband has truly helped a lot, and I could not have made it look nearly as good as it is without his help. So I'm just very thankful for that. And then of course the door, I'm just excited about that. He added the posts at the top because I'm gonna bring some of that clematis that reminds me of my mom out here, and I'll probably have 2 different varieties so that they can start trailing up the doorway. But I am just absolutely tickled and so excited. Now, in terms of weather, we've had some really nice weather here. It's been in the 60s and 70s and very warm. But of course today I'm off for 3 days, and the nighttime temperature is like 37 degrees, and I think it's supposed to only be like 50 degrees today. But that's okay. I'm going to see what cold weather crops I can plant. And then I do have a rough draft of what I will be planting where in here, but I'm going to try and finalize that over the course of the next 3 days, so that hopefully once the weather breaks and we're free from the frost, I can start bringing some plants out here. But yeah, this is just a very quick update. Okay, so we are inside because I grabbed some seeds. We're gonna plant some spring crops today, but I just want to give you an update on the plants that I have started indoors that will eventually be transplanted into the garden. So as I pull this out, let me just show you how everything is looking. So we have, these are poblanos. These are things that we've started weeks ago. There has been some yellowing on some of the leaves, and I was reading online that that can be an indication that there's a nitrogen deficiency. So I did add some worm castings on top here, but I've been taking my trays out each day to hang out in the natural sun, get used to the elements and everything, to hopefully strengthen the plants, and they seem to be doing really well. But unfortunately, the next 3 days they're going to be cozy inside because it's just too cold outside. This is my tray of peppers and tomatoes. The peppers especially are doing really, really good. I'm very excited about them. The pink tags are my peppers, and then the red tags are my tomatoes. So they're doing okay. A couple of the plants lost some leaves, and that's when I started to look online, and it seemed like it was because of a nitrogen deficiency. But some of these are just doing really well. And I have to water some of these. And then of course I did start some flowers. I didn't take you guys along for the ride with those, but I've started some poppy seeds and cosmos. I've never grown either before or started either from seeds, but I figured I'd give them a try. Oh, this is looking good. So I have some Swiss chard in our experimental styrofoam bowl. So things are looking okay. I'm excited. I have to water these for the day, but I'm thinking things are going to be thriving once they're actually planted in the ground. And then of course, lastly, we have my beloved microgreens, which if you follow me on Instagram, you'll see that I add these to all kinds of things, especially for breakfast. I like to have them on like avocado toast and whatnot. So I am going to set up a little station outside. We're gonna plant some kale, carrots, radishes, kohlrabi, which I've never grown before. So I'll get that started, and we'll just plant some stuff together for a spring garden, because these things seem like they are ready to direct. So at least 1 to 2 weeks prior to the last frost, and I think technically we're at the last frost state, but we're still having some chilly temperatures, so I'm thinking as a nice distraction, I can start these plants before I actually transplant my other plants late in the later weeks. So I'll catch you outside soon. You're gonna see very quickly that I usually don't wear gloves when planting, so I am going to set you all up here. I don't really have a plan, but I am going to try and make things to where it's assorted, to where I just don't have like all of my carrots in one area, radishes in the other. I'm probably going to have like some kind of variation throughout this bed. So let's review the seeds that I'm going to plant today. So I have some regular cherry bell radishes here, and then I have Easter egg blend radishes. Had I thought about this weeks ago, I probably should have started radishes so I could actually harvest Easter egg radishes for Easter, but I wasn't even thinking about that. I have 3 different kinds of carrots. I have my cosmic purple carrots, which are my absolute favorite. I grew these last year. I'm very excited to grow them again this year. And then I have just a hybrid sugar snacks carrot. This is like your typical generic orange carrot. And then as a freebie from when I purchased my seeds from Baker Creek, I then received some of these carrots, and these are Uzbek golden carrots. Then I have some Swiss chard. So I started some seeds indoors. I am going to plant some of the Swiss chard in the garden extension, but I want to have some chard up here as well. I've never eaten nor grown chard before, but it looks really pretty, so we're just gonna see how that goes. Then I have kohlrabi, and then I have winterland kale. I've tried to grow this twice last year. Once was during the summertime and another time during the fall. The summertime, I think it was too hot, and then the fall time, my kale plants got eaten by bugs. So we're gonna try 3 times the charm, hopefully. So I'm going to first use a garden tool to dig out the spaces that I'm going to have all of this in. I am going to reserve some space for some butter crunch lettuce. That is the only other item that I will be adding to this garden bed. It's too cold in the season for me to start my lettuce right now, but hopefully by time this stuff starts to sprout and take off, I'll be free and clear of my last frost and will be able to plant my lettuce at that time. So I'm going to speed up the video so you can see me work in this garden. So what I've just done is I just broke up the very top layer of the soil ever so slightly. I don't want to disturb everything, but I just want to break it up so that as I sow my seeds, I have some loose soil to spread lightly on top of the seeds. It is supposed to rain in about an hour, so after I plant my seeds, I'm not going to water the garden, only because we're supposed to get some rain that's going to last through the rest of the day. This is the kale. It's kind of like in paper towel or toilet paper, and there's seeds I'd say every inch or so. This is an easy way to be able to plant things in a nice uniform straight line. As you can see, when I started with my radishes, I just took my gardening hoe and just made 3 lines in this garden. They're obviously not exact, but I figured I made the indentations in the garden bed, and then I'm marking each row with these flat rocks just so that I know I have 3 separate sections. I am going to split this garden tape into 2 and do 1 section of kale here and then another section of kale further down the garden. I'm going to reserve the rest of this row. I'm going to put 2 sections of lettuce, so I'm not going to fill this entire row up. But towards the center, I'm going to plant some of the carrots, and then the kohlrabi I'm going to put towards the back of this bed. Now, just a friendly reminder, carrot seeds are super tiny, so I'm likely going to sow these too densely, and I'll just try my best to only pick up 1 seed at a time. But I've seen other methods where you can actually buy carrot seeds that are coated and are much larger in size, so you'll be able to pick them up individually. I forgot what they're called, and I think they're coated in clay or something, but I don't have that. I just have the super tiny carrot seeds that I'm gonna work with today. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to plant these in the same row with the kale, and then I'm gonna add the different varieties of carrots, and then left I have my Swiss chard, and then I have to plant my kohlrabi as well. So I think what I'm going to do is plant some Swiss chard now in the middle of the second row, so the middle of the middle row, and then on this 3rd row behind me, I'm going to have like end caps of some more carrots, make some space for my butter crunch lettuce, and then plant the kohlrabi in the center. I am kind of looking at this as like an artistic project, because with all of the variety and random but not too random setup, I'm curious to see just how all of this will look like once it actually starts growing. So I'm actually really excited about that. Okay, so there you have it. Not an exact science, and I have no idea how this is going to turn out. But like I said, I'm excited just to see how this will look like as hopefully things start to sprout. Just like the different variations between the carrots, radishes, kohlrabi, and kale. I just hope my kale actually takes off this time around, because like I said, I haven't been successful in the past. I'm excited. I think the soil that I have here is really good. Again, this is one of our oldest beds that we have. So we've been mending it for quite some time. And as I was weeding last week and the week before, I was finding so many worms, which is a great sign for your soil health. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm sorry for anyone who's more exact in gardening. It was probably pretty cringy to watch me just like throw seeds. And actually, as I was going back to add more carrots to my rows, because the seeds are so tiny, I was like, oh my gosh, where did I leave off in this row? So I've probably heavily sowed some carrots in some areas, but I mean, that's the thing with gardening, is it's not, in my eyes, it's not supposed to be exact. You could just try to have fun with it. So we'll see how it goes. I'll be sure to take you all along as I plant more stuff, but I think this is scratching an itch for now before I can transplant some of my things into my other garden. Next up back there, of course, is for my husband and I to finish the fencing, and then we have to set the irrigation on top of our garden beds, and then hopefully the weather will officially break and I can transplant some stuff. So I'm just so excited to see how that all goes. So thank you all so much for tuning back in. If you want to check out my previous videos about what the gardens looked like before I redid them, before we started building, everything that's out there around back now, I encourage you to check out some of the older videos. Otherwise, stay tuned and just watch this all transform with me. Let me know how your spring gardens are doing. If you're in an area where you're already planting things, I'd love to hear about how things are going. Thank you all so much for tuning back in, and I'll catch you next time. Take care.